time to talk about lights. I prepared some lights. They are in the material library. In the lights folder, we have HDRI maps and IS lights. Let's focus on HDRI map. If you want to use these maps, you need to create dome light. In this course, we'll focus mainly on dome light and some additional lights. If you want to create the first light, dome light, just click on dome light icon. If you can't see any icon here, it means that you need to right-click somewhere here at the top bar and choose V-Ray Lights. Now I click on the dome light icon and place it somewhere here. Let's go to the Asset Editor, and in the Lights tab, we have a new position, Dome Light. Dome light is our main source of light. I expand the panel, click on the dome light, and here I have properties of the light. Let's focus on Color Texture HDR. Here I can upload a map which I have downloaded from the website. The best website with HDRI maps is polyheaven.com. Just go to this website, click on Browse HDRIs, and here I have hundreds of HDRI maps. I have chosen 2 of them and we will use them during the course. First, I need to clear the texture slots, which is beside Color Texture HDR. Right-click and clear. And then I click on the texture slot and choose Bitmap. Here I have 2 kinds of HDR maps. I will choose Canon map. I open it. We can notice that the map is uploaded. I go to the previous asset. When you are using dome light, it's good to set quite large intensity, 50, 60, or even 150. Then I go to the shape. We need to change it from hemisphere to the sphere because I don't want to have these black spaces, black places. I change it to sphere and the black areas disappeared. And that's all. This is our main source of light. Let's move on to sunlight. In this course, I will not use sunlight. Honestly, I'm not using sunlight very often. If you are using dome light and this dome light contains the sun, you shouldn't use additional sunlight. You need to decide if you want to use dome light or sunlight. I will use dome light. Let's create the first render. To do this, we need to go to Render Settings and set some properties. The first thing is Engine. In my case, I use GPU CUDA because I have this kind of graphic cards. If you are using graphic cards with RTX, then just choose RTX. If you want to use CPU in your computer, not graphic cards, just choose CPU. I will use graphic cards CUDA. Then we can choose the type of render, interactive render or progressive render. At the beginning, I mostly use interactive or progressive render, but if I want to create render with the highest quality, then I disable interactive and progressive, and thanks to it, the render has the highest quality. In this case, I will use progressive render. Remember that interactive render is a live preview render, and progressive render is a fast preview, but is not a lifetime rendering. Then I have quality. I want to create some preview renderings. That's why I said low plus or medium quality. Then I have denoiser. I will enable it. And then I go to the camera settings. Here I have exposure value. This is the lightness of the scene. In the default, it's set to 14. I will change it to 11, something between 11 and 12. Thanks to it, my scene will be lighter. Mostly I use something between 11 and 12. Then I have render output. It's good to always enable save frame. I can see what will be rendered in the V-Ray frame buffer. If I change the aspect ratio, for example, 1:1 square, then these black areas will not be rendered, just this lighter area. I change it again 16:9. The last but not least is material override. For now, we don't have any materials in the scene. That's why I turn on material override. It's good at the beginning of visualization process to turn on material override because I want to have all the objects to be covered with white V-Ray material. Let's go back to Render Output tab. And here we have image width and height. For now, 800 is fine, but if you like to create a final render with high quality, then you need to change it to 2500. For now, for our preview renders, 800 is fine. Let's render the first scene. Let's notice that the render is white. This is because we have section in the scene. And we can notice that most of the light goes through this hole in the wall. As we can notice, there is no wall at this side because we have section. We need to fix it. That's why I go to the Asset Editor, to Geometry tab, and here I have Section Plane. This is the section plane which I created previously. I click on the section plane, go to the Options, and remember, if you are creating V-Ray visualization and you are using sections, you should always disable Affect Light and enable Camera Rays Only. Now the light will not pass through the hole in the wall. There is no section for V-Ray and the light will not pass through this wall. Let's check it. I click on the teapot icon. This is our render. It looks better, but I think that in some places it's too bright. Let's work on it. I will expand the right side. Here I have layers. And let's create the first layer, exposure. I click on the layer icon and choose exposure. Here I can change the exposure to lighten or darker the scene. I will set it to 0 as it was before. And then remember to decrease the highlight burn value. Thanks to it, we can notice that the burnouts disappeared. We can increase contrast a little bit, and it looks fine. In the background, we have white area, but we will change it. We need to create the most important render element, light mix. Thanks to light mix render element, we will have control over every light in the scene. Let's turn it on. I go to the Asset Editor, click on the Render Elements tab, and choose Light Mix. Let's render. Let's notice that on the right side a new position has appeared. This is Light Mix. When I click on it, I have all types of lights in the scene. Some of them doesn't work, but for example dome light, it works. We can change the intensity of this light here in the post-production to make it darker or lighter. And that's all, because this is the first and the main source of light. The rest of the lights doesn't work. Let's focus on the dome light again. For now, we have default position of the dome light, but we can always change it. That's why I go to the Asset Editor, Dome Light, and click on the texture slots beside Texture HDR. Here I have Texture Placement tab. We can rotate our HDRI map. Thanks to it, the lighting in the interior will be different. Let's check a different value, for example 90. Let's render. This is our new render. We can compare this render with the previous one. To do this, we need a history. That's why I go to the Options, V-Ray Frame Buffer Settings, History, and check Enabled, use Project Path, and Autosave. Check these 3 positions. That's all. And on the left side, you will have a history panel. This is the history of all my renderings which I've just created. This is the newest render and this is a previous render. That's why I click on the A-B horizontal comparison. A is the left side of the previous render and B right side on the newest render. And we can compare these 2 renders. Let's notice that the previous render was darker and the newest render is lighter. So if I change the position of HDRI map, the render is lighter in the scene. Let's change it again. I go to the Asset Editor and change it to 150. This is our new render. Let's compare it. I think that the newer render looks better. I will leave it as it is. Remember that you can do it even faster. Just go to the settings and turn on interactive render. My computer is not good enough for interactive rendering. Let's check it. This is a lifetime preview, but as we can see, the quality of this render is not good enough for me. But if you are using very good computer with a great graphic card or CPU, then you can always check your render in the interactive rendering modes. I will use progressive render. What about view outside the window? We can notice some rocks and grass. I think that it doesn't look good, so we can change it. To do this, let's go to the Lights tab, Dome Light, Options, and make Dome Light invisible. Thanks to it, there is no view outside the window, but the interior is still lightened by the dome light. Let's check it. As we can see, there is no view outside the window, just brown and blue color. Inside in the kitchen, we have lighting in the scene. Let's move on to render settings. And here we have environment tab. Let's expand this. Here in the background, we can set the view outside the window. To do this, I right-click on the texture slot, clear it. Here I will upload new HDR map. Let's go to the materials folder. I downloaded this map from Polyheaven website. I will use it in the background tab. I click on the texture slot, bitmap, and choose Road File. I open it. The view outside the window will be something like this. I go to V-Ray Frame Buffer, and this time I want to render a region. To do this, I click on the region render icon and select proper region to render, just the view outside the window. And then I go to the settings, render settings, go to the render, and turn on interactive rendering. I think that my computer will work fine with this small region for rendering. Let's check it. I click on the interactive render icon and wait. This is our view outside the window. I think that it's too dark, that's why I will change it. In the environment tab, I will change the background value to 10. It's a little bit lighter. Let's change it to 100. And it looks fine. I think that the view outside the window is not good enough. We can change it. Just click on the texture slot in the background, texture placement, and here I can rotate my map. And the view is changing. Something around 150. Then I will check the vertical position of this map. To do this, let's go to the 2D transformation. Here I have offset UV, and in this place, let's set the very small value, for example 001. Let's change the horizontal position of this map. Here I have forest. Okay. Let's change the vertical position of this map. 002 or maybe 0. I think that 0 looks fine. The position of this map looks fine. Now we can change one more value. Here I have color manipulation tab and color offset. Just increase the value a little bit, really slightly, and our map will be lighter. The colors will be less saturated, something like this. Okay. I will change the vertical position minus 0.01. I think that it looks better. We can change the position again. I think that it looks fine. And it's done. Let's turn off interactive rendering and change the render to progressive one and see the results. Remember to turn off region render. Just click on region render again and render. That's the result. I think that it looks very fine.